Do you want to go on a cruise? And are you wondering what to do in the different ports of call, the different cities that the cruise line visits? Well, you're in the right place. My name is Karla Scott of Global Ways, and today's topic is how do we know what to do when we visit the different ports of call, the cities, the towns, the villages, where our cruise will stop. Okay, this is not going to be perfect today. I'm only going to be showing you materials from this cruise because those are the only materials that I have today. This cruise will make stops in Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, Tunisia, and in Corsica. So just keep that in mind. So how do we know what to do? Well, you have a wide range of options, and they vary based upon, first of all, how much time you want to spend in port that day, and also how much time the cruise ship will be docked in port. In most cases, the cruise will spend 8 to 10 hours, a full day in every port city. There are some exceptions. For example, I've been on cruises that only spent time till 1 o'clock in Gibraltar, and on this cruise we're only going to spend until 1 o'clock in Cartagena, Spain. But I've been on other cruises where we spent full days in both of those ports, so just keep that in mind. Secondly is how much money would you like to spend? Next is how much time would you like to invest researching your port of call? And on this, I just would like to urge you to really consider investing some time researching each of the ports, because I guarantee you that you'll have a much more meaningful experience if you're willing to invest the time in learning about your port of call. The next point is extremely important. How far are the sites that you'd like to see from the actual port? Well, believe it or not, that varies. There are some cities that are port cities that are right there at the port. Those cities are Barcelona, Copenhagen, Naples, Buenos Aires in Argentina, Tallinn in Estonia. There are other cities that are perhaps a 20 to 30 minute walk into town, like on the island of Malta. There are other cities that range anywhere from an hour to a 3-hour drive to visit the sites that you'd like to see. Examples of those are Warnemünde, Germany. That's the port city where the ship docks if you'd like to visit Berlin, one of the most interesting cities in the world. So keep that in mind when you're trying to consider which of the options you'll explore. For those who'd like to visit the pyramids in Cairo, the pyramids of Giza and in Cairo, typically your ship will stop in Alexandria, which is the port city that's a 3-hour drive from Giza and Cairo. So you need to keep that in mind. Others are, if you'd like to visit Rome, the port city is Civitavecchia. No one goes to Civitavecchia for any reason other than to take a cruise ship around the Mediterranean or other parts of Europe. You will spend at least an hour traveling from Civitavecchia into Rome, whether you take the Italian train system, whether you hire a taxi, or whether you take a private tour or a shore excursion offered by the cruise line. It's going to take at least an hour, so you need to be aware of that as you're planning. And then a final consideration is whether or not the port is a tender port. And what do we mean by tender port? A tender means that the ship is too large to actually dock at port. It will dock somewhere out in the water or out in the bay, and you can see the ship from the actual shore, but you won't go into to shore to dock the ship. So what the cruise line will do is transport all 1,500 or 2,000 or 3,000 or more passengers from the ship to shore using small boats. More and more they're using their own lifeboats. So what they do is they lower the lifeboats one at a time. They load about 100 passengers in, and then they gently guide them over to the shore. It can be a very time-consuming process. So in order to avoid the sometimes painful logistics and long lines and long waits associated with even procuring tender tickets, you may just simply want to go on a ship-sponsored shore excursion so that you can just leisurely follow the leader. We'll talk more about those. Okay, what's the first option? The first option is something that I've already referred to. Cruise lines offer a variety of shore excursions ranging anywhere from a 2-hour walking tour to a 3-hour panoramic city tour where you literally stay on the bus to full-day shore excursions that may even include lunch and inside visits to key sites. So I urge you to attend the shore excursion presentations. Look at the shore excursion presentations that have been previously recorded and shown on your television on a loop over and over, and familiarize yourself with your cruise line's shore excursions guide. They'll provide you with a list of everything from, for example, here's Seville. This is a transfer into Seville. They'll just drive you there. So round trip at $74. Here's a tour of the city of Seville. This is from the port of Cadiz, by the way, which is an hour and a half each way. That's $199. Here's panoramic Cadiz, which is the port city, and Jerez sherry tasting. That part of the world is known for their sherry wine. Here's a tour of a farmhouse and country estate, where you actually get to do some Andalusian horseback riding. Here's a flamenco. That one, by the way, costs $99 for a 6-hour. $244 for a 4-hour tour. Here's a Cadiz Jerez and a horse show. That's $99. And here is a walk through Cadiz and flamenco dance for $94, and flamenco and traditional Spanish meal. That's only a 2-hour excursion, and it cost $129. So yeah, they're a little pricey, but these are some examples you need to be aware of. Now, what are the advantages of taking a ship-sponsored shore excursion? Well, they pick you up from the ship. You don't have to find your way into town at all. You won't get lost. Everything is included, including all the admission fees to the museums and the monuments and religious sites, etc. Tips are even included, and you pay with your onboard account. So you really don't even need to worry about other currency unless you'd like to buy something on your own. But the most important benefit, and what appeals to a lot of people, even adventurous souls, is the fact that you have a worry-free return to the ship. You don't risk missing your ship. I have heard a few horror stories of people on private tours or people on their own who, as they're approaching the port, they see their ship pulling out of port. That's a scary feeling, and a lot of people just don't want to risk that. And I can certainly understand that, although I've gone on private tours all over the world and I've never had problems. It's a matter of peace of mind. And if you know that it takes 3 hours to drive into Cairo and 3 hours back, and if your ship is only staying there for 1 day, you may not want to risk it. It's also why, in some cases, such as Alexandria, that's a good example, the ships do stay overnight. And in Israel, the ships may go into Ashdod and leave out of Haifa. So even if you didn't make it back to the ship in time, the other port is close enough that you wouldn't miss your ship. And yes, they are pricey. You can see that. Okay, option number 2 is to tour on your own. And there, I highly recommend that you conduct a lot of research. Go to your bookstore, go to your library, take the whole book, or photocopy sections, or even resort to doing what I've been doing lately, is just ripping out the sections from my guidebooks, because, you know, it's expensive to travel with heavy luggage. So instead of bringing the entire book, bring the chapters that you like. I have lots and lots of maps that I've collected from previous visits of cities. This is also Florence. And then I have all the port guides and other maps So I have nice little packages that I've assembled for each of the cities that I'm going to visit. Before I went to Argentina, I actually went to the Argentinian embassy in Miami, and they gave me an enormous package just filled with helpful guides and maps of the entire country and of the various regions. So think creatively about how you can gather information beyond just going to the internet, although the internet is a great source of information, of course. So what are some of the questions that you'd like to answer? What is this city known for? What are the top sites? What is the best way to get into town? What is the local currency? And the more you know about the history, the government, arts, cuisine, the rulers throughout history, because there will be monuments to the rulers everywhere, the economy, religion, the richer your experience will be. For certain popular sites, keep this in mind. If you want to go into certain museums or religious sites or monuments that are really world famous, it's best to go online in advance, go to that site, and purchase your tickets online. And what they do is, typically, they sell tickets in different time slots. So they may allow you into the Academia and David, for example, between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So if you're going with a group of people, make sure that everyone goes online and buys their tickets for that same slot. I've gotten tickets in advance to go up to the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam, very popular place to go. Of course, you need to get tickets online in advance. And all the major world museums, go to their websites and buy tickets in advance. Otherwise, you could wait 2-3 hours or longer in line. And remember, you have a short amount of time in port in most cases. Another option that I recommend, and I've taken them all over, including the first one I took was in Manhattan, the hop-on, hop-off buses. And what are those? Those are those large double-decker buses with the big picture windows that provide you with audio-guided tours. They hand you a headset when you board, and they feature the tours in the 8 major languages of the world, or the 8 major languages of tourists in the world, and they provide you with a nice overview of the city. And they also tend to have stops at the key sites, you know, the Colosseum in Rome, or the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, of course, you know, the Louvre in Paris. Here are some things to keep in mind. Are in many cases, the larger cities, hop-on, hop-off buses have more than one route, and they're all included with your ticket. In the larger cities, they may have more than one company competing. They may even have 3 companies competing. So you need to make sure that you know which bus to get on and off of if you are hopping on and off. Sometimes I just stay on and do the whole circuit twice, and then I may choose to hop off, because then I get a nice feel for the city. So I wanted to show you, Barcelona has the blue company and the red company. Their buses are blue, their buses are red. You have to make sure you know which one you're on. And the blue company has the red route, the blue route, and the green route. And again, they stop at all the major sites. And this is 2014. The tickets for the hop-on, hop-off in Barcelona cost 24 euros for 1 day and 31 euros for 2 days. So I highly recommend those. Option number 3 is to take a small private tour. And I've already alluded to the small private tours, but what are they? Those are tours that include anywhere between 8 and 10 passengers, typically from your ship. They travel in a smaller vehicle, and they offer many of the same itineraries and activities as the cruises shore excursions do. Now let's talk about some of the advantages, because there are quite a few. They're small, so it's easy to load and unload the passengers. The vehicles are small, so they're easy to maneuver in town and to park up close to the sites. I remember distinctly we parked really close to the Colosseum in Rome, and in Jerusalem we were able to park really close to the sites. And I found out later that those on the large tour buses that hold 40 to 50 people had to walk 3 or 4 blocks in some cases to see sites. You can customize them, so there's a lot of flexibility in what you actually do. One person typically will organize the tour, or you may just buy it directly from the tour company who has already set the itinerary. So check on that. You avoid the big time wasters. They're called factory visits. You know, they'll take you to the carpet factory in Turkey, for example, or Morocco, or they'll take you to the perfume store, the papyrus store in Egypt. Those are a big waste of time. You don't need to spend your time going to overpriced stores that are designed specifically for tourists. If you want to buy something, you'll go on your own to the local markets that have all the flavor and color that you've heard about and read about. And the prices are much better. Lunch is much faster when you have 8 or 10 or 12 people, and the group may decide